Actually pretty pumped to be here tonight to kick off this series called Sexy Thoughts. These February series, are actually usually some of my favorite because I feel like you can say awkward things and you can get away with it. And it's pretty incredible. And tonight is actually no different. And I'm going to give you a bit of a forewarning here. It will get a little awkward tonight. And I mean it to get awkward. The reason why I mean it to get awkward is because I think it can lead to something better. It can lead to health. But some of you, in fact, statistics say anywhere between 75 and 85% of you will feel a little bit out of sorts tonight. And there's a reason for it, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a warning. Here's why. 79% of 18 to 30-year-old males and 76% of 18 to 30-year-old women watch internet porn at least once a month. According to pornography statistics compiled by this group called Covenant Eyes that looks at this stuff, 63% of the same young adult males watch it several times per week, and 21% of those females also watch it several times throughout the week. You're like, why did I invite my friend tonight? He's getting right into it. And did you know this? According to Pornhub, the world's most used porn site, Sunday night is the most popular time to watch porn. I gave away some of your evening plans, didn't I? These messages are always, and to be honest, they're always kind of expected when it comes to church. Like, of course, the church is going to talk and touch about porn. I mean, if we were all to be honest, a little bit of porn is to be expected. It's literally in your pocket. It's free. And I don't know if you know this, but there's nude people in porn. Like a lot of it. Porn is prevalent. It's almost impossible to avoid. And most have come to the conclusion that it's going to be normal. It's unavoidable. And then some people are thinking it's actually maybe a little bit healthy. Here's some questions you may be asking. Isn't it better that I watch porn instead of sleep around with other people? Isn't it better that I watch porn so I'm not cheating on my girlfriend or my boyfriend? Or isn't it better that I'm doing it because I'm single, I'm at an age, I'm ready to mingle, no one's getting the note that I'm ready for something, and I'm alone, and it's been a really long time. Like, there's this sense where, like, if porn is so normal, then why do we make such a big deal about it? The church kind of has been a bit of a prude in general when it comes to sex. And I admit that we haven't always, we usually don't engage the idea of sexuality in a healthy, balanced, or even realistic way. Like, I remember growing up and hearing about this interview between this guy named Ted Bundy. I don't know if you know him, but he was a Harvard student. He ended up actually murdering 20 women. And James Dobson, this guy, he started he's a psychiatrist and an author, and he started this foundation called Focus on the Family. And I think it was like a day or two before Ted Bundy was actually to be executed, had this interview. And there's questions asked, and Ted Bundy made it explicitly clear that the reason why he ended up committing these violent sexual acts, these violent acts, was because of his engagement, regular engagement with hardcore porn. Now, here's the thing. Research has shown that you can't correlate the two. But the church had a field day with it, because that's what church does typically. Did you hear that? Let's peddle that information to everyone. And so for a long time, churches were like, if you watch porn, you will become a violent sexual offender and murder many women. Probably by the same people, the exact same people, who told us that playing violent video games will lead you to becoming a psychopath, magic from Care Bears would possess the souls of young women, and masturbating would make you blind. A theory that I think many of you don't want to admit you've proven wrong over and over and over and over and over again. But I'll be forthright with you. Although the church has dealt with sexuality in unhealthy and sometimes even disastrous ways, the Bible is, and I am, anti-porn. Just not anti-sex. There's a simple logic to this. God created you with physical bodies and desires with the purpose of you knowing and experiencing pleasure, so why would he be against sex? I mean, there's this book called Song of Solomon right in the Bible, in the old part of the Bible we call the Old Testament. I don't know if you've ever read it, but I want to read you a certain passage. Awake, north wind, and come, south wind. Blow on my garden, that its fragrance may spread everywhere, that my beloved come into his garden and taste its choice fruits. Let's just say that her garden, well, she didn't have a garden, and the garden she was talking about was below her 2 mountains. We were created, literally, the beginning it says that we were nude, and we were created to procreate, to enjoy sex. It was a norm. God created us with these bodies, and so I'm not anti-sex. I just think that there are good practical, scientific, and biblical boundaries and reasons for sex to have those boundaries. And this leads me specifically to why I am, in the Bible, is so anti-porn. And go with me in this, just bear with me. The reason why is because of this thing called true love. Now, I don't mean this in kind of like romantic, weird Hallmark Christmas kind of way that makes you gush over someone. I mean the actual thing, love. Porn is anti-love. In fact, it thrives and it depends on the absence and the suppression of what love actually is. See, love equals human flourishing, where porn is anti-human flourishing. But let me define love for you. And some of you here, if you don't really like subscribe to this way of thinking, that's totally okay. Because I think that you're going to probably be fine with the way I define love. And if you've been to any wedding, you've actually probably heard the passage that I'm going to read, because it's read at almost every single wedding. What is love? It's in this book called 1 Corinthians. It's in the second part of the Bible, the New Testament. This is what it says. In verse 4, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. Love always perseveres. And when love is experienced, what it encompasses is joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. It will go as far as doing good to those who hate you, to bless those who curse you, pray for those who hurt you. Love encompasses all these things. Now, listen, there's a reason why these things are read aloud at wedding after wedding after wedding. Because I think this is actually what we all want. This kind of love. To be loved this way and to be able to say that we are the kind of people who can give that kind of love. We want it because we know this is the only way that we can probably have long-lasting, committed, faithful, happy, fulfilling marriages. Because it's only in this kind of love, not only do we get that, but also are we transformed into something better, to something more whole and full. Love, true love, is our hope. There's this guy named Timothy Keller. He was a pastor. I shouldn't say guy because he's much older than me. And this gentleman named Tim Keller, he's a pastor in the States. And I actually read this passage almost at every wedding that I do. I love this passage, and I think it encompasses the idea of love, something we all want. And he says this: when over the years, someone has seen you at your worst and knows you with all your strengths and flaws, yet commits him or herself to you wholly, it is a consummate experience. To be loved but not known is comforting but superficial. To be known and not loved, well, that's our greatest fear. But to be fully known and fully loved is what we all strive for. Only a love that is patient, a love that is kind, a love that does not envy, a love that does not boast, is not proud, it doesn't dishonor other people, a love that's not self-seeking, that's not easily angered, that keeps no record of wrong, that does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth, that always protects, always trusts, always perseveres, can stick this kind of landing. And I hinted at this earlier, but this kind of love is so powerful because the main target isn't actually you. You are just the byproduct of your choice to love someone this way. See, love will always start at the expense of yourself for the benefit of another. Because if it's just mutual benefit, all it is just a transaction. You get something because they give you something. But love always comes at the sacrifice of self for the benefit of another person. It's about sacrificing it's about sacrificing because your will and what you want to do is cultivate environments where the other person can flourish. And the best part, like I said, the byproduct is that you end up flourishing because of it. It's transforming. And there's no exploitation of yourself or anyone else when someone loves this way. See, when two people strive to love each other this way, to build an environment of commitment, of faithfulness, intimacy, and security to grow, then what you have is an environment where true love actually happens. Sucky part about this love, though, and I'll be totally honest with you, is that it does require another person involved in the situation. Only they can confirm that you are actually loving. See, by yourself, you can delude yourself into thinking that you're a loving person, but it's only the person, the object of your love, that can tell you if you're actually being a loving person. I'll give you an example. My wife, I remember earlier in our marriage, she'd tell me, and I'm like, I love you, and she'd ask me, do you? And I hated that question. Well, of course, woman, I love you, right? And she's like, no, but do you love me? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, no, like, you say you love me, but I don't feel like you love me the way that I feel loved. And I realized at that point that love is something that's not typically innate. It's something we need to work at doing. And I had to learn to find a way to make her feel loved in a way that she feels loved. Like for me, it was just gifts, because it's just easy to just buy something and give it. Look, it's big, She's like, I don't care. I want you to spend time with me. And I was like, but it's big, right? And I had to learn that love required another person to actually say, it's just like love your enemy. Guess what? You don't know if you're loving your enemy if your enemy able to look at you or to another person and say, this person loves me. See, when you're by yourself, you can say you love everybody. Love requires another person to actually confirm the fact that you are loving. So love is something we need to cultivate in ourselves. The decision to love is yours, and even though the desire is ingrained in us, selflessness is not something that comes easy or comes natural. But you and I can find fulfillment when we practice true love. Why? There's this passage found in another New Testament book called 1 John. It says this, but anyone who does not love does not know God. Why? For God is love. Here's the crazy thing. Right at the beginning of the Bible, in this book called Genesis, which literally is beginning, and it's like the first chapter, so it's really easy to get to. It says this. So God created human beings in his own image. If God is love, and he created us in his image, we're meant to live to know this kind of love. So let's go back to the first question. Why is God against porn? Why am I against porn? And why do I think you need to be against porn? Because porn is anti-love. See, unlike love, porn is an anonymous, one-person buffet for your lusts to feed on. There's no one else involved except for you. You are the only benefactor, and it is always, and I mean always, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not throwing words out there willy-nilly, I mean it, it's always at the expense or exploitation of another person. That's just not love. It's at the expense of the performers. I'm going to read you a lot of research because I think you and I need to be aware of this. At the expense of the performers. So performers under more pressure to film more extreme acts because they pay more. To put it briefly, for performers, pain pays. See, a scene featuring extreme and violent acts can earn a performer from $1,200 to $2,400, while a standard scene might get a performer $800 or less. So it ends up not being cost effective. It's not worth it. Then they have to make further negotiations with themselves, like, will I do torture porn? Will I do fetish porn? Will I do forced blowjobs? What about penal? And things that they may never have expected to do in the first place. This cycle feeds a demand for increasingly abusive and extreme scenes, creating a climate in which each scene needs to be more extreme than the last if it's going to be profitable for the directors, the studios, and the performers. Well, can you know whether the porn you're watching is truly consensual? Well, the unfortunate truth is that you can't. There is no guarantee. It is virtually impossible to know whether any particular content is consensual, ethical, or even legal. At the end of the day, you would have to ask yourself, is watching it worth it? Is it worth contributing to the demand that keeps afloat an industry that profits from non-consensual content? To engage in regular porn watching, you have to make a decision to humanize and devalue the performers. They will have to be less valuable to you than your own gratification. Let me read this again. Love does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. Love does not delight in evil. Listen to this. It always protects. Porn is anti-love. It always comes at the expense of healthy relationships. I'm going to read you some more. So remember at the beginning about the stats on how many young adults are actually engaging in porn? Interestingly enough, one large national study found that only 4% of women who were casually dating men reported that their partner regularly consumed porn, when in reality, 50% of the men who were casually dating reported that they regularly consumed porn. In fact, in this study, none of the casual dating women, 0, reported that their partner consumed pornography daily or every other day. But 43% of the casually dating men in the study reported this level of heavy porn consumption. In more committed relationships, only 46% of women accurately reported how much their partner consumed porn, with nearly 40% of men reporting more consumption than she believed was occurring. It's a great way to start a relationship. Deceit. It always works. It doesn't. When someone hides their porn habit from the partners, it can not only hurt the relationship, it can also leave the consumer feeling lonely and more vulnerable to depression, poor self-esteem, and anxiety. Plus, when romantic partners keep secrets from each other, their trust in each other erodes and their confidence in the relationship start to decrease. What's more, I'm not done. Dozens of studies have repeatedly shown that porn consumers tend to have lower relationship satisfaction, lower relationship quality. Porn consumers tend to experience more negative communication with their partners, feel less dedicated to the relationships, have a more difficult time making adjustments in the relationships, are less sexually satisfied, and commit more infidelity. Research also shows that porn consumers tend to become less committed to their partners, less satisfied in the relationships, and more accepting of cheating. Meanwhile, partners of porn consumers also report negative effects, such as lower self-esteem, worse relationship quality, and less sexual satisfaction. Research also suggests that porn consumption can undermine trust in relationship and fuel couple conflicts. You got to understand, almost 80% of couples that I go through premarital with have someone who is struggling with porn. And I have not met one couple who said, this doesn't bother me. There's just no way. One study, for example, tracked couples over a 6-year period to see what factors influence the quality of their marriage and their satisfaction with their sex lives. The research found that of all the factors considered, porn consumption was the second strongest indicator that a marriage would suffer. Not only that, but the marriages that were harmed the most were those of individuals who viewed porn the most. According to another study, individuals who watched porn alone reported twice the rate of cheating on their partner in comparison to couples who didn't watch porn at all. To engage in regular porn watching, you are deciding to trade long-term, healthy intimacy for your own gratification. Let's read this again. Love is kind. It does not envy. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Porn is anti-love. But don't worry, I'm not done. It will always come at the expense of the person watching. A recent poll found that the more porn a man consumes, the more likely he is to be dissatisfied with the size of his penis. Hashtag shower thoughts. And the same goes for women of male partners. The more porn they consume, the less satisfied they are with their partner's penis size. If that's not enough for you to stop watching it, I don't know what is. Anyways, research also consistently demonstrates that porn consumption is a significant predictor of sexual aggression. Studies also suggest that increased pornography consumption is associated with the enjoyment, now listen to this, of degrading, uncommon, or aggressive sexual behaviors. It is known that over the years, many psychiatrists and couple counselors are noticing more and more women and men who come confused and traumatized by the violence that they're experiencing in their sexual encounters with their partner. Because I don't know if you know this, I didn't put it in here, I actually took it out, I probably shouldn't have. But between 14 and 18 years old, over 50% of males and females in that category say that their greatest education about sex is the porn they watch. 8 out of 9 porn videos that are watched include extreme acts of violence. And majority of those, women do not reach climax, only the males do. What do you think that's educating our young people with? Similarly, pornography can shape how we view sexual situations by overwhelming our brain's natural processes. It can take our brain's natural stimuli, our desires for intimacy and connection, our longing to feel strong or desirable in our relationships, our interest in particular features or activity, and give us a more quantity, more exaggerated, and more supernormal version of that thing. Until it can override what we think is normal, warp what we perceive as exciting, and make real intimacy seem less interesting by comparison. This is why doctors say that pornography affects the brain through an intense stimulation of a reward system, ultimately making pornography consumption more rewarding, aka it's why you can't stop. To engage in regular porn watching, you have to choose to sacrifice your own spiritual, physical, mental, and relational well-being for the endless, insatiable need of your own gratification. But let me remind you, love expressed is filled with joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. It's patient. That love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Listen, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Porn is anti-love. So one more question. Do you want true love in your life? Is that what you want? It's true love. Again, in the New Testament, there's this author. His name's Paul. And writing to a church in first century Ephesus, he says this: be careful then how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. This verse and section is all actually about decisions. Decisions that will ultimately shape our life. And in this, fools are those who don't see their decisions as interconnected with the relationships, with their futures, anything like that. And the wise people are those who do see their decisions and actions as having consequences for those around them, consequences for themselves, consequences when it comes to the relationship with Jesus and others. Those are the wise people. The fools disassociate that. So he says, be careful in how you live. Don't live like fools, but live wise. So let me ask you again, do you want true love? If we were to just strip away, wrong analogy talking about porn. If we got to the bare bones, I put that one in there though. Bare bones of this, take the Bible out of it. Take the Bible right out of it. Take the shame out of it. Let's normalize this for a second. Let's just contrast what we're working towards here. When you make a decision to continually engage in porn, you continually make the decision to be okay with exploitation, relational destruction, and constant personal turmoil. But if we are people who are choosing love, to cultivate that in our lives, to have that in our relationships, this is what you get out of it. Patience. Become kind. You won't envy. In fact, you won't even boast because you're not even proud. You won't dishonor others. It won't be for your own self. In fact, you won't even be easily angered. You won't keep records of wrong. You won't delight in evil, but you rejoice with what is true and what is good. You will protect. You will always trust. You will always hope. It's the kind of love that will persevere. So what do you want? Because listen, sex is like pretty easy. And you're like, well, not for me. The action of sex is easy. It's literally just plug and play, right? No one needs to teach you that. Love. Love, though, is hard. But it's worth it. God made you for love. God made you to know love. God made you to express true love. And love is cultivated intentionally. So be careful then how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. So what now, though? Because there's no secret here. Porn is one of the hardest habits to kick. It's seemingly impossible. But if you want to love well, to flourish in a relationship with yourself, with others, and with God, I'm telling you, there is always hope. And here's what I want you to hear from me. If you are someone here who engages in regular porn, I remember being in these messages and hearing my friends and others and just like felt so heavy and guilty. And I'm trying to tell you, what I tried to do tonight was to give you a contrast. It's as easy as this. What do you actually want? And you're probably going to say, I want true love, but I'm stuck here. And I want to let you know, I get it, man. Or woman, I get it. It's not simple. It's not easy for me to just say, well, just stop it. It's not the way it works. All I'm trying to say is there is another way, and I want to help you get there. And I want to remind you of something. For one, God is love. God is patient. And you need to hear this. God is kind. He does not envy. He does not boast. He's not proud. God will not dishonor you. He's not self-seeking. He's not easily angered with you. In fact, he won't even keep a record of wrongs. He doesn't delight in evil, but he rejoices with the truth. He always protects. He always trusts. He always hopes. God always perseveres for you. Listen, God can't be kinder than me. And if you're thinking, man, I want out, guess what? God's probably wanting you to have an out more than you want an out. If this is kind of love that you want to give to other people, guess what? God is love, and you were made in his image, so that is who he is, that he was what he desires for you. And so some of you have been running away from God, where God has been chasing you the entire time, and he's like, yo, guess what? I am love. Let me encompass you in my love. And guess what? I'm not easily angered. I won't keep a record of wrong, and I will always persevere on your behalf. Man, that's good. And the best part is that we're promised that he'll empower us to do the right things. Paul, he writes another letter to Philippians, and he says this, for God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. Some of you need to write that on your walls, tattoo it on someone's forehead. Just do what you will with it. To remind you that God is not against you, he's for you. So run. Do whatever you need to do to get out of it. and be ruthless. Keep in mind with what you want and chase that. If your phone's an issue, get some software. Watch what you listen and watch what you're watching and listening to. Be honest with someone you trust. Take your time dismantling the habit, triggers, and environments that keep you under. And here's some good news. Even in some cases of serious substance and other addictions, research shows that the brain can heal over time with sustained effort. Research also indicates that while guilt can motivate healthy change, shame actually fuels problematic porn habits. So I need you to hear me out tonight. If you're trying to give up porn, be kind to yourself. Be patient with your progress. Like anything, it takes time for the brain to recover. But daily efforts make a big difference over the long run. Think of it like a muscle that grows bigger and stronger the more you use it. The longer you stay away from porn, the easier it is to do so. All it takes is practice. 2 Timothy 2:22 says this, run from anything that stimulates youthful lusts. Instead, pursue righteous living, faithfulness, love, and peace. He literally means flee. And you're transformed through your mind. Let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. You need to tell yourself that you are loved, that you are meant to love, that you are worthy to be loved, that God delights in you, yes, even you, that you can and you will overcome, that there is another way, another option. And third, the reality is that you won't be able to overcome it on your own. I mean, study after study shows that if you want to let go of a habit and put a new habit in, accountability is the only way to actually hold on to a sustained habit. Find someone you trust. Be honest with them. In the same verse in 2 Timothy 2:22, it says this, enjoy the companionship of those who call on the Lord with pure hearts. Find people who want your good, who want you to succeed, who want you to know God's love. You know, one thing I hated about accountability groups and churches is like, let's tell about all the ways that you suck. Thank you. I'm going to tell you all the ways that I sucked too. And you know, it's just like, it's just a group of suck. And it doesn't make anyone feel better. No, find a group of people who see the other option, who are patient with you, who are loving to you, who are challenging you. And you, this other person, other people are just wanting you to know better. There's a couple great options. There's this place called fortify.com. Fortify.com, fortify.com, and covenanteyes.com. Two good places to start. Fightthenewdrug.com is another great place to just gain awareness of porn's effect on you. For some people, that's extremely helpful to know how your habits exploit other people and not just yourself. And lastly, if you're in a relationship with someone who's struggling with it, shame is a terrible motivator. I could venture guess that they've been hiding already because of an incredible amount of shame and embarrassment about it. Now, if you're not married, what I am not saying is that you need to stay. Sometimes it's way too traumatizing. Sometimes it's very hard to deal with that, and I know that's scary. But you can't be someone's savior when they're wrestling through some of this stuff. If you are in a relationship and you are struggling, you need to be honest, though, because it is affecting your relationship, and it will do it if you're serious about this girl or this guy. Get some help. Find a counselor. Find people. If you are married to someone, if you're watching this online, or you're here and you're married to someone who's engaging in porn and having a hard time, can I encourage you? I'd highly recommend counseling and therapy to help you to walk through this and talk through it. We all need help. If you're in a relationship, and maybe you're experiencing abusive or even violent sexual behavior and you're not comfortable with it, that's not normal. If you don't feel safe, you have every right to ensure your safety and that your personal boundaries are not violated by anyone for any reason. Seek help from a trusted person, find a friend, reach out. At the end of the day, this is what I want you to hear. Sex is easy. Love is hard. You're meant for love. You're meant to know it. You're meant to give it. So what do you want? My challenge to you is to decide today who you will become. What kind of transformation do you want? And the reason why we talk so big about this stuff is because sex is such a big part of our lives. And this just beats the crap out of someone's identity. And God did not create you to beat yourself up constantly. Porn is scientifically created to keep you trapped. My God can't help but set people free. But he says it's my goodness that leads people to change. And so, whatever you decide, if you decide for love, would you know God's love and his goodness? Because you deserve it.